Okay. Welcome everyone to week 5 Essential Sharing in Action Zoom call. We're excited to have you guys here. And what we were thinking about doing tonight is helping you with your events, debrief a little bit if you've had it, or do a little bit more preparation if you haven't had it, because last week or this week we were going to have it. And share some of our own tips and tricks and things that we've done, we've learned, the mistakes we've learned. You can learn from ours and not make your own. And so definitely pop in questions too. So if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. And Trisha, you know what? It just occurred to me, I didn't check. Did you see if there were any questions, if people had left them on the post?
We hadn't had any questions yet.
All right. I just want to make sure.
And I'm just going to go through and mute everyone. If you would like to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself. Laura, I'm going to hit mute, and then you'll have to unmute yourself, okay? Okay.
All right. So, first of all, well, as we go along, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. And really, no question is too silly. Please, please, please. Any concerns you have or challenges you've run into, or we would love to hear wins too. Have those of you on the call, have you done your event yet? And some of you may have done several. I'm seeing if you guys are nodding. It's confusing to watch me because my camera is up here, but you guys are here. So my computer's in a different place. So it always looks like I'm looking away, but I'm looking at you. Did those of you who have done your event, how did it go? Wendy, I love your photo. That is beautiful. Is that the Mona farm? Does anybody know if that's the Mona farm that Wendy has? It looks like it. Nazra. Oh, excellent. Okay, so Nazra, am I saying that right? Hopefully I am. I apologize if I'm not. Says, I've had my event and only one person showed up. She did sign up. Now, what I'm hearing is only one person. How many people did you have invited? You had 15. Okay, so maybe this is where we can start, Trisha and Sue. What if we talked a little bit about how to improve your show up rate? This is really, really common in today's day and age. People commit and then don't even fully commit and show up. And Nazra, if you can pop on to chat, that'd be great. We could coach you around it, but if you can't, I understand. We can tell you things. So let me just throw out a couple of reasons why that often happens for me or for the people that I'm mentoring. And then Sue and Trisha, feel free to pop in as well. First of all, people have a tendency you've got the early adapters and the I can't commit to the last minute. There's usually not much in between. So one of the things Vicki says is she says, start inviting 3 weeks in advance. And in that 3 weeks in advance, you're going to get people who say, yeah, I can do it. And they put it in their calendar and they're going to show. And then you'll probably not get much in between. And then in the last 24 to 48 hours, you'll get to people who say, okay, nothing better has come up, so I can commit. And they may or may not show. In general, this is what I find. And Trisha and Sue, I'd love to hear what you have to say too. And if someone says maybe, they're not going to show. Okay? Until someone actually says yes. Maybes are the people who really aren't necessarily interested and, not really sure. You haven't really made it worth their while yet, unless they have a reason. They might say, maybe I can. My daughter might have rehearsal and I might have to take her. That's different. But if someone says, maybe without any other reason, it's usually because you haven't yet been able to share with them why it's such a good thing for them. Why it's going to help them a lot and why they're really very interested, if you will. So that's one of the things you want to think of. The other thing I wanted to share around this too, to help ensure show-ups, is to be sure you've confirmed. So the day before you confirm, and I always put 3 pieces into it. I'm so excited to see you tomorrow. I'm really excited for you to learn about da 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 because I know it's going to help you with, or I think it's going to help you with. So those are a few tips. The other thing is if you have someone who's you really know they'd love it, if they just showed up but they're really not very good at it, give them an assignment. So could you stop by the store and bring some fizzy water for me? You know, I need you to pick up some crackers for me. I need you to pick up so-and-so. She needs a ride. She's on your way. Give them something to do, and that it helps ensure that they show up too. Good. All right, Trisha or Sue, do you guys have some?
Yeah, Laura, I'll pop on for a second. And I think you really touched on great ideas for ensuring that people get there. And yes, you want that confirmation. You want to have them say yes 3 times in your invitation before you get off the phone with them the first time. And then the thing that I'll say on the other side of all this, things happen. People will cancel at the last minute, and that's okay. And one thing one of my mentors said to me early on is the people who need to be there are the ones that show up. So remember that if you find yourself in a situation with just one friend coming to the door, don't be disappointed that only one person has shown up. You have such a gift to give them by sharing the oils with them that night. And for whatever reason, they're the person that needs your attention that night, more than some of the other people that may have committed. So, you know, instead of moving to a place of disappointment where, believe me, they're not going to get started. They can feel your disappointment. Think about what a gift you have to share with them that evening.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I would add in is that, you know, I always think you need to go back and do a little self-reflection too. When did you send the invites? Was it in a timely manner? What did the invite say? Maybe have I changed the words? Did I confirm 3 times when I talked to them? You know, always take a look at what you did and what were the things that people told you as to why they couldn't come, so that you're able to overcome those objections in the next one before they do. Because until you've done this a couple of times and people learn to understand that it's fun, it's educational, that you're not going to push them, people can be very leery because they don't know what you're going to do. But you'll get a reputation as you do this more for being fun and educational, and you get to smell good stuff, and more people will show. But I think self-reflection is always a good thing as well, because no matter how many times you do this, you'll always be able to go back and look at something and say, oh, you know, I sent that invitation out, but I probably wasn't as good as I could have been, or you know, maybe I need to do more follow-up, or maybe I needed to pick up the phone, or something along those lines. So I agree totally with Trisha. Never think that just because one person showed up, that's awesome. You now have one person on your team that you've given amazing customer service to. You've shown them your passion, and now you have the ability to make them a raving fan.
I want to add a couple of things to all of that, and that I just, what Sue said is so right. I will tell you that one time I had the most miserable event I have ever taught in my life. I had 7 committed, 2 showed. And I just did a poor job of presentation. I was thrown off my game because I was disappointed. You know what, you guys, those 2 are my 2 biggest legs. Those 2 people signed up on the spot. They were in, they got on ER right away. And actually that was January 4th of 2015. By January 31st, they were both at 1,000 and I hit executive. So you just don't know, right? And I love when Trisha said, I totally agree that you never know who's in front of you. You're here to serve. And the person who's in front of you, maybe it's one person because they really need some TLC. And they really need you to love them up. Now, I will add one piece to this. Be really careful, if you only have 1 or maybe 2 people, to still use the script, okay? So when you have 1 or 2 people, especially as you get to know the products really well, it can become very easy to start to look like you're the expert, you know, because they're going to tell you things they wouldn't say if there's a room full of people. They might tell you, I don't sleep. I've got anxiety. They'll go way off non-compliantly, right? I've got digestive issues. I've got whatever. And in your head, you're going, oh my God, Young Living is amazing. You're going to love this. It's going to be an amazing thing. We're going to support wellness. It's going to be great. And stop. You can do that the next time you meet them. But their intro still needs to be with you in that beginner mind. And that's a tricky thing to do in that situation. But that's one of the things you want to be sure to do. Okay, questions around that at all? I have one other thing I wanted to add to this, because Tricia said something else that was really important, and I want to make sure you understand what she was saying. She had said, make sure you get people to say yes 3 times before they hang up. So that is a technique for helping people beyond their own resistance. So when someone says yes, it's a psychological thing. It's actually very positive. It gives you a little bit of a buzz. If you ever notice when you say yes, you feel really good. When you say no, it doesn't feel as good. Okay? And when you say yes, it just gives you that little bit of a buzz. But the more that you say yes, the more you're going to continue to say yes. Okay? So when you say yes 3 times, and you're saying yes to an opportunity, and that just means showing up at this event, you are more likely to actually show up. It's really interesting. As human beings, we don't want to be wrong. It's actually the way our brain is wired. And we have to help people get beyond that. And so when they're saying yes, it helps begin to rewire that to saying yes to Young Living too. So, and the yeses can be super simple. I'll say, I bet you are ready to have a great night's sleep. What is someone going to say? Yes. I bet you're really open to learning new things. I bet it'd be really fun to learn something new. If you can start to play into their colors. Is it something you might be open to finding out more about? And then, are you available on Saturday morning at 10? And they're more likely to say yes. Now, obviously, if they're not available, they're going to say no. But we're just getting past their own limiting resistance. So if they were going to say no, if they would have said no right away because, oh my God, it's another one of those things, or whatever, that will help get them to say yes. All right, Nezra, I hope that helped you, my dear. I hear, she says awesome, but it did. Okay, good. Good. That is really common. So I'm hoping that helped a bunch of you. The whole invite a bevy and only 1 shows up or 2 show up is common. So I hope that helps all of you. I'm still working on that one. That one is I'm still a work in progress for sure. The further out from your inner circle you go to, the more you need to nuance your language to help people. Your mom and your sister and your best friend are going to show just because you ask them. But once you're 2 or 3 degrees of separation from yourself, then you need to give them reason. They need a reason. Good. All right. So for those of you who are joined, we're answering questions and asking about how your first events have gone. Dory, I see you there. Do you have your munchkin with you? Is she asleep? If you can unmute, oh, there she is. Do you want to tell us about your first event? Or if it's too noisy there, then I understand.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, it went really, really well. I just had 2 people show up, and they're really close friends of mine, and they knew that I was just kind of trying it out, with the facts and everything and all the script, and so they knew about that. And I was holding my script, and I had, really practiced before they got there, and then I just kind of was, speaking from my heart and just really passionate about the products, as I've always been. And I kind of just remembered a lot of the things. And then I would look down and I'd pull my script back up and look at it. And then I would read a sentence of it. And then they'd look at me like, you just said that. And I'm like, oh, I just said that. Oh, okay. So I was realizing that I should probably have done more of the quick reference guide just to kind of keep me on the bullet points, because I was surprised myself with how much I actually learned, versus feeling like I really needed it there to read, as per se. And then, of course, Riley just started getting crazy and wanting to feed. And so then I'm standing there in front of them holding the script and breastfeeding at the same time, and they're all going, well, hold on. Let's just pause what you're doing for a moment right now, because right now you're just like a power woman right now. And I'm like, whoa, I kind of am. Thanks, guys. So it was just kind of, it was more, I guess, a self-esteem boost, I should say. I felt, because I was really nervous going into it. I mean, I was diffusing Valor, and, you know, that's usually my go-to oil when I feel anxiety. And I guess I was psyching myself out. I tend to do that a lot. So it ended up being really, really, really great. And they both really just jumped into it and were like, okay, this is great. And I was timid about sharing the essential rewards. I don't know what that is with me yet, but I was holding back a little bit on it. And, you know, my girlfriend, Trisha, she was like, well, no, like, I'm ready. Like, tell me about this. How can I sign up? And I'm like, okay. You know, I didn't want you guys thinking I'm here selling you anything. I just wanted you guys to just fall in love with the products. And she's like, no, I got that. No, how can I get signed up? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, we could do it right now if you want. She's like, yeah, pull your computer out. I'm like, oh, okay. And then my other friend, you know, he's like, well, hold on, you know, I really want to do it, but I got to wait for my next paycheck to come in, but I'm totally on board. I can't wait. And I'm like, oh, okay. I was very pleasantly surprised with the turnout and how, I guess, easy, it came to me, because I thought it was going to be a lot harder, I guess you could say. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And can I just say, it just cracks me up when you said I was really surprised that they wanted to do it. I wasn't even going to do it. And how many people can say that? And Trisha, I'm sure you can, and I know Sue can too, that you almost are taken aback. It's like, oh, that's right. You might actually want this. And
right.
It's so exciting. So yay, good for you. And you know, I think the thing that I would love, and we've already talked about this, but for others listening, that to just see signing up wholesale account essential rewards as part of the education. That's it. You know, this is where I feel the difference between, and we've talked about this before, but the difference between sales and being salesy and being a salesman and being an oil salesman, because I don't see myself as that. I'm an educator, which makes it even easier. I mean, I'm an educator by trade, if you will. But I encourage you to see yourself that way too. And all I'm doing is, hey, I'm educating you on this, and I'm going to educate you on how to take the next step if you want. But if you don't want, that's okay too. I don't say that, but that's the attitude I have. And the beauty of that is I think sales becomes when you start to encourage when they don't want to. You want to manipulate them into it. And that's when it feels icky. And we don't go there. Cool. Thanks, Dory. Does anyone else have their story they want to share? And Christine, by the way, you said you haven't had yours yet. You don't need to apologize. This was actually the week. Wasn't it? I think week 5 was the week we told you to actually have it. So no worries about that. I just happen to know Dory already had hers, so she could share her experience with y'all. And I have to tell you, I love hearing the stories from the upper echelon, you know, the diamonds, crown diamonds, and royal crown diamonds, who built relatively quickly. And I love hearing that you're nursing Riley as you're teaching, because there's one woman who said she has 7 kids. She's a Royal Crown Diamond, I think. I'm trying to remember who it was, but I'm remembering her as a Royal Crown Diamond. And she homeschools. And she said, you know what? I think I built fast initially because people were like, oh my God, if you can do this, I can. They're like, she's like, I don't have any time. And then there was Krista Smith, who has 15 kids and did it for 5 hours on Saturday. That's all she had time for. 15 kids she only homeschooled 14 because the 15th was out of the house. But 14 kids that she homeschools. My son's gotten to be friends with her kids. They actually text and snap each other and everything. It's kind of cute. But anyway, 5 hours on Saturday was all she had time for. Her husband would be home then, and she would go to a coffee shop for 5 hours, and she would work on the business. She hit silver in 2 years, and 2 years later she hit diamond. So, and she said, people are like, if you can do that, I can do that. So good for you, Dory. That's where I'm going with that. Good for you and the whole, you're very, not that people are going to think they have to nurse, but they're going to think, if a woman can do this while she has a nursing child, then I can do this too. Cool. All right. Well, one of the things
Laura, before we go on, I think Wendy had her hand up to share on her event.
Yep. So my event was on Saturday, and there was a lot going on in our town, and I didn't have a lot of people confirmed. I think I invited like 30 people. So I had maybe 4 that said they would come. And when it came right down to it, and I honestly thought a lot of people work on Saturdays, that they would just come through maybe on their lunch hour. I was at our library from 10:30 till noon, and that's how I put it out there to some people that I knew worked, that just stop on by. Well, it ended up nobody came. So while I was waiting, I listened to a Tom Challen webinar. I got my display all kind of arranged how I liked it. And after it was over, I put a post on my Facebook page and thanked everybody for coming. And I said, your Young Living products will be there soon, and I'm so glad you're getting the junk. I pretended like I had a huge class. And I thought, now everybody that said, oh, I'm, to themselves, I'm not going because I'm too busy, I thought, well, now they can see they missed out on a great event. So I just wanted to tell you guys, it was really the first time that's ever happened where like nobody came. Usually 1 or 2 will at least show up. And honestly, when those 1 or 2 people come, those end up being great events because they almost always buy a starter kit. So I just tried to make the best of it. And the only people I told were my friend Robin, and now you guys know. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell anybody. Because if you tell them, then they'll just be feeling sorry for you, or they'll tell you, oh, you shouldn't do this, or whatever. So I just thought that was a way to flip it around and make it more positive instead of feeling sorry for myself. So next time, I'll just have to plan better.
And that's the key. And be specific. I would even say, write it down. What do I need to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Start earlier. What are the 3 things I'm going to learn from this and do differently the next time? And no, people all have these stories. I love it when Roller Crown Diamonds go, I still had an event last week and no one showed. It's like, thank you for saying that. I personally, one of my largest teams is down in Des Moines. I'm in Minneapolis. It's about a 3.5-hour drive. It's my sister's team. And the very first time I went down there to help her start, she had 5 events scheduled and people committed, etc. 5 events, 0 people came. I drove all the way to Des Moines, and we laughed. We actually went through a couple bottles of wine and really enjoyed the weekend together. We had a really fun time. My son went with us. We went out for pizza and we worked out and we did stuff. But we said, this is going to be our story, and it happens. And just know, I'm going to do it differently next time. And it sounds like you do. So good for you. All right. So is Trisha and Sue, do you guys want to start thinking about your tips and tricks? Does anyone else want to talk about their experience? Or any questions that you have? Otherwise, we thought we would share a few tips and tricks we kind of already have, I guess, about our events. I will start with mine. And this is one that I wish I had started at the very, very, very beginning. So this is my learn from my mistakes to all of you. And that is, I wish from the very beginning, I had encouraged people to come back, to come to my next event and bring somebody. This is the essence of heart-centered sharing. And that is to help people help people. And I wish I didn't do it with my very first people, that my inner circle. I probably had about 20 people sign up pretty quickly in the first few months that were my inner circle people, and a good chunk of them have gone inactive. I didn't get them on ER. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't encourage them to share. So my advice for you is, when you have an event, have your next event scheduled already, okay? Even your next 2 or 3, because when they leave or when they sign up, whatever, say, you know what, I'm having an event in 2 weeks. If you think of someone who really needs these, or would like them, or would enjoy them, or maybe they ask about your diffuser, bring them back. Bring them back to that event. I would love to help you help them. What Vicki has found is that people have a minimum of about, if they have between 4 and 5 people underneath them, they are far less likely to go inactive, way more likely to be on ER, and she actually has just the statistics, but I'm a blue. I don't remember the numbers. I just know it was significant. And the other thing is, they have found that anyone who comes back to an intro event with someone, their average monthly order goes up significantly. And her only guess is it's because that first event is a little overwhelming because there's so many things to learn about. And once they've started to play with their own products and then come back and learn more, they tend to order more because they know more. That she's not exactly sure, but it's really interesting. She said the average order goes up. So that's my big thing. I really wish I had done that. My second piece I wanted to share with you is encouraging at least one item beyond the premium starter kit when they sign up. The other statistic Vicki has is when people order just one thing, she said it could be a dental floss or a lip balm. It doesn't matter. But when they order one thing more than just the premium starter kit, they are significantly more likely to remain a young living person forever. She said if people just walk away with the premium starter kit, chances are they're going to go inactive, that they will never order again, actually. There's a higher percentage chance. She said, yeah, you'll give them great care and take care of them, and maybe they'll hop on ER, and that's great, but there's a greater chance of them never ordering again if they just get a premium starter kit. And she said, and then who have you helped? We haven't really helped them if all they get is the premium starter kit. So what I always recommend is have 2 or 3 products that you really love that you teach around, and maybe it applies to your particular population. If you have a lot of moms with little kids, then talk about the KidSense products. If you have fitness buffs, talk about Pure Protein Complete, amino-wise. If you have non-toxic cleaning people, Thieves Cleaner is a no-brainer, right? That's like the easiest thing ever add on. And I can honestly tell people, if they're just getting the premium starter kit, I'm like, dude, really, you need to at least add the Thieves Cleaner. I am so comfortable doing that and saying that. It's like you're going to save money. It's safer. It's going to get rid of tons of toxins. It's going to declutter. You just need it. And actually now I give a little glass spray bottle, the 16-ounce amber spray bottles. They're like $3 on Amazon. I think I found it for $2. I give it to them if they get the Thieves Cleaner, and that encourages them to get it. So those are my 2 tips. Have your next event right away scheduled, and invite people immediately, right when they're signing up, okay? And the second thing is to encourage at least one product beyond the premium starter kit. Cool. Trisha or Sue, do you guys have a tip or 2?
Sure. Those are both excellent ones, Laura. And the one thing that I really wish that I had done right from the beginning is follow Vicki and Chris's advice to keep it super simple. As Laura said before, keep that script in your hand. Dory, even as you know all that stuff, yeah, if you want to use the quick checklist, go ahead, but keep something in your hand and avoid that temptation to move into expert mode. And for me, it even has to do with how I set up my seating arrangement. And they do talk about this a little bit in the book. And it's important for me because I come from a teaching background as well. And as a green, it's not always an ego thing, but I've done a lot of research and I want to share a lot of information with people. Pull back a little bit. Don't overwhelm people. This may be the very first time they're hearing about essential oils and it may sound like Greek to them. And if you start talking about all kinds of different chemical molecules in those oils, you might just go way over their head. So I encourage you to just be another person in the room. You happen to be the person with the script this time. And the knowledge of how to use the oils safely so you can demonstrate that for people. Avoid sitting in a place where you are separated from everybody else. And that can also be a challenge for the green personality where, we tend to want to be a little isolated sometimes in a group, but make yourself part of the group. And so that's my suggestion to you. Do what you can to keep it as super simple as possible so that people watching you would feel encouraged that they could do this as well.
And I see Debbie, do you want to share your story? We'd love to hear your event stories. Oh, Dory. Oh, yeah, Dory. Yes. Why don't you go ahead? It sounds like you want to add something based on what we've been talking about.
Yeah, about the seating thing, which personally, what I thought was really cool, what I've kind of responded to as trying to get away from the expert thing is they were sitting on my couches and I just kind of at one point just got down on the ground and was sitting on the other side of my coffee table because I had everything kind of set up on my coffee table, and I just kind of lowered myself lower than them, so it kind of made them feel like they could ask a little bit more and feel a little bit comfortable versus when you're standing up and hovering over people and spitting out all these kind of facts, they can kind of get intimidated thinking that you're the expert. So sometimes if you take yourself down to their level or even lower than their level, it can make them feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more open to sharing something. So I thought that would kind of added on to your seating thing. I don't know if that helps.
That's great.
Yeah, put thought into it for sure.
So the one thing I would say for people that they want to make sure that they do is that they set up the next contact with everybody that's there. So if it's someone that set up a kit, you set up a time where I'm going to call you in the next couple of days, going to show you how to check in on your tracking on your box, or if it's someone that maybe, came but didn't purchase a kit, say, I always follow up in the next couple of days. Just want to let you know that, I'm going to reach out to you. Because if you don't let people know that you're going to follow up with them and how, you could call them and they could be like, well, why are you contacting me, right? Or you could go to make that phone call and say, well, gosh, what if they don't want to hear from me? You've already told them. Now you're doing what you said you would. You're being the person that you said you would be. And you gain their trust because you said they were going to contact them. You said you were going to touch base with them and ask them how they were doing or if they had any questions, and now you have. And I think that's really important because I think that it's very easy to get away from an event and not contact anybody and be afraid to contact them for fear that they don't want to hear from you.
That's awesome, Sue. And I'd like to add, I've got all of these little Post-it notes in my book about, oh my gosh, there's a great tidbit. There's a great tidbit. I could have one of these Post-it notes on every single page. But for those of you that are maybe not as comfortable with what you might want to say during that phone conversation after your event, on page 71, there are some thoughts there on what a care call might look like. So, take a moment to review that. It'll give you some thoughts before you call someone about what you might want to say to them when you do pick up the phone.
Absolutely. And write down little things you know about people in the room. If someone's expressed to you that they have kids or they have pets or, they're looking for teacher gifts or whatever, write those little notes down so that when you do call them up, you can offer them more information on what they might be interested in. Always keep those little notes, because when you leave the event, you think, oh, I'll remember that. And then I guarantee you'll be sitting around a week later and you'll be saying to your girlfriend that held the event with you, who was the person who said that they had the dog that they wanted to, have something for their pet bed for? And everybody's trying to remember. Always write them down, and that gives you a conversation, and it gives you a place to link with them right away when you have that care call. Hi, just wanted to see how you're doing. Do you have any questions from the event? Oh, and I know that you mentioned that, your daughter really would like something to help her fall asleep at night. I looked up a couple different things, lavender or stress away, which are both in that starter kit, would be great, blah, blah, blah. Again, it just gives you those things to really sink into that conversation. And again, create that customer service, that I'm here for you bond that people want, that will keep them coming back.
And then be sure you do follow up when you say you're going to.
Absolutely.
That is so crucial.
Well, and again, if you're kind of like me, my big thing is I always feel I'm bothering people, right? I've been like this my whole life. It's that yellow personality in me. And by creating that contact, I now would feel bad if I didn't, because I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I told them I was going to do this, and now I haven't. So for those of you who struggle with that yellow personality that doesn't want to be a bother, you're not being a bother, right? They already know that you're going to call them. They see your number coming up. They're like, oh, God, that's that girl. She's going to call me back. I'll just let it go to voicemail. I mean, I know that might sound crazy, but these are the things that when you have that really yellow personality that you struggle with more than somebody who's a red and says, oh, I'm just going to dial them up. What do I care, right? So just something to think about.
It's true. All right, so as we left off, Debbie, you were still going to share your experience. Are you ready?
So I'm actually down in Florida working with one of my downlines, because I'm from Canada, and it's hard for her to learn the ropes, basically. So I came down to work with her for the week. She'd scheduled 3 different events, and she probably invited 10 people to each event. We had 5 to 7 show up for each event, but we always have a door prize. It doesn't matter how many people show up, we always have a door prize. So they put their name in the door prize draw when they come in, and I always include Thieves Cleaner in my 101. So I actually save my Perrier bottles, and I actually show them how easy it is to make Thieves Household Cleaner, and I just demo it right in front of them, and then we use that as a door prize. So we have a Perrier bottle with a spritzer on top. So my cost is about $2 to give them a Thieves Household Cleaner, and I talk about how I clean everything. And my downline down here loves Thieves Cleaner, so she was going on about how she uses the recipes to make different Thieves Cleaner products in her house, and the window cleaner. And anyway, the next day we had an open house, and a bunch of people came back because they knew we were doing a DIY at the end of the seminar. They all wanted to make their Thieves Household Cleaner. So having a lot of my downlines actually have a for-charge DIY at the end of a seminar, and they'll advertise that. And it's usually an inexpensive $5 rollerball for whatever they're talking about. But we get a lot of people out when there's something that they know they can take home with them. whether it's they might win the door prize or whether it's they get to stay and make a little DIY at the end. That's worked really well for us. We ended up having a fourth event yesterday because there were a number of people that couldn't come to the first three. So they called up my downline and said, I'm really, really sorry. When's the next time you're going to do this? So she called me and she said, I hope you're going to be around because I told everyone to come to your place from 4 till 6. We had a fourth event and we had 5 more people show up. And over the 4 days, we had 4 signups and 2 people to follow up that said they're signing up. So it was a good week.
Congrats.
It was an awesome
So
week.
those are just a couple of little tips that we use that my downline down here, who's just starting up, is now using. Inexpensive and fun. It makes it more fun when you actually make something in front of them. Show them, because I'm amazed at how afraid people are to use their oils or use the product. And when you just whip the products out and start making up a roller ball or pick up a Thieves Household Cleaner and then have a draw, they see how easy it is and how easy it could be for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree on that for sure. Good. Well, good for you. That's so exciting.
Hey, Deb, just so you know, I just got on Route 4.
Okay, I'll call the gate and tell them to let you in.
All right.
Sue's going to have a red nose like me, but
Drive carefully, Sue.
That's all good.
she's on her 5th.
Yeah, my 5th nitro. I left Philadelphia at 5:25 this morning.
Oh my gosh.
And it's only 2 nitros. It's really not 5.
I'm stocked up, don't worry.
That's all right. I brought 2 boxes with me. It's all good.
All right, you guys. Well, can you think of anything else? Trisha or Sue, is there anything you want to add? Or those of you who are watching, do you have any other questions you'd like to ask while you have us? Well, then I'm going to officially say thanks for joining all of us tonight. It's been great having you guys. We have 1 more week left for our Zoom, but feel free to keep dropping in and asking us questions if you'd like. We would love to keep supporting you as you move forward with your events. And have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.